Of course he does that when I literally start recording. Oh, I think he's done. Hey everyone, welcome to my first Q&A video. I'm Sam, and this was all made possible by my patrons, so thank you so much if you've subscribed to become a patron, and I also appreciate all of the support that I've been getting on YouTube. And so if you haven't noticed, this is my face, which this is kind of like a Q&A plus a face reveal, and I'll be answering all of your questions. We got 43 questions, but some questions have more questions in them, so really we have more than 43 questions. And this is actually the second time I record this because I forgot to press record on the first try. So my surprises are not exactly the same as the first time, but it happens. It happens. Yeah. Alright, so you know I don't like to waste time, so let's get started. Alright, so the first question is by Nikki V. Hey Nikki. Nikki also does tutorials on YouTube, on animations mostly, and they ask, what do you like to work on outside of games? And, well, I do my day job, and then I try to do game dev and YouTube stuff on the side, and then out of that, I don't really work because I consider that enough work, but I do play games and watch anime, so I guess that's a kind of working towards relaxation. The second question is by Dems Creates, and they ask, how did you get into game development? What was your first game like? I've always been into game development since I was a child, except I didn't actually learn how to code until I went to college. And my first game, I made it after my freshman year in the summer when I literally wasn't doing anything that summer except one class, which was kind of a waste of time. But my first game was a procedurally generated Frogger game where you can just hop around. It's really bad. It's like worse than what I am explaining it like. Alright, so if we go into my first game, I made this for a game jam, and we press start. You'll see that I can't even, oh, there it is. So you're a frog and you just have to jump around, and you can even see the Capsule Collider shadow. So the wall jump is actually a glitch that I didn't know how to do an actual wall jump, so I just turned it into a feature, of course, like a good programmer. I'm just kidding. And the rivets, I don't know if you can hear them, but they're actually me. I didn't know how to get a rivet sound at the moment. But yeah, this was my first game. It sucks. So yes, I hope that answered your question. Alright, the third question is from Walter. Thanks, Walter, for all the help on the server. He is my mod, and he is awesome. And he asks, who's your favorite game dev YouTuber? And I don't really have a favorite per se, but I do watch some people that I think are really cool. So the first one is Thomas Brush, which made Pinstripe and Neversong, and their games are on Steam. And so they post a lot about the game dev experience and stuff that you really wouldn't know unless you did it yourself. And I think it's very valuable, especially for indie developers. And I also think their camera setup is amazing. Like, I'm trying to replicate that in the future one day, but I really like the quality of their videos, and they're just top notch. The next one I like is ऊGet. This is a fairly new YouTuber, but they talk about their experiences with game dev, and it's very entertaining to watch. And inspirational as well. Another one is Mrs. Yes. And I like Mrs. because they're straight to the point, and they also work on a lot of smaller games, and the games they work on, I like the style of. They're very pixelated, or they're very dungeon crawler-ish, but I like their style of game development, and they have a lot of cool videos, and they work on small prototypes as well. They also have a Udemy course, which I purchased for Godot, and I thought it was pretty cool. And then one other person I like is Snuddy HQ, I hope I said that right. And they're a couple who works on a game together, The Life of Mr. Pips, and their videos are pretty funny and very cute. And so I definitely check them out if you're interested in like learning more about how they do their game development, or you just want some entertaining content. Alright, and the next question is by Anton. Hey Anton. Their question is, since when are you making games in Unity, and what other programming tools do you use? So, as I said before, I was making games since my sophomore year in college, so maybe 3-4 years ago, and I started with Unity. I've also learned how to use some Unreal, and I'm learning how to use Godot right now. Hopefully one day I'll make tutorials on Godot and Unity at the same time, maybe Unreal, let's see. And for programming tools, I just use the IDE, which is Visual Studio Code, and the editor itself, the game engine itself. I don't use many programming tools outside of that. Game development is another story though. For game development, there's Asafrite for pixel art development. There's also Inkscape and GIMP, which are free, and Krita as well for art manipulation or image manipulation. Audacity is also a great program for audio manipulation, and I use that to do post-processing on my videos. I just realized I should probably have like this light over here since it's kind of dark in my room. Anyways, the next question is by Dev of the Day, and they ask, is there a place where you learn to code, maybe like watching tutorials or going to a class? And if so, can you provide those tutorials? So I learned to code in college, in the programming class. So, and if I did watch any tutorials at that time, I have no recollection of them whatsoever. But I do recommend Unity Learn has a C# course that they provide, and it's C#, but they also use the Unity engine. So it's useful for learning C#, but also for learning Unity as well. I think it's a couple hours long, and they have a beginner one and they have an intermediate one as well. So the next question is by Adam Devlop, and they ask, what is your motivation for making videos on YouTube? And so there are several points to this. One of them is that when you teach someone to do something, you become better at it. So it's a learning experience, and by teaching others, I've had to learn it myself. So for example, a lot of my videos, some of them I didn't know how to do it off the top of my head, and I had to do a lot of research on. And so that helped me learn how to do it. And maybe when I'm making my own game or something, then I'm like, oh, I did this for my video, I know how to do it. So you become a better programmer and developer when you teach others. A second point is that when I started out learning Unity and YouTube, a lot of the tutorials I didn't really like. I'm a very impatient person, I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't like people to waste my time, and I want them to get straight to the point. So in my videos, I cut out all that excess until the end, where at the end is where I say all the stuff like, oh, subscribe and stuff. So I get straight to the point, which I don't like tutorials that don't get straight to the point, like I just want to see it. Another thing is that the tutorials I watched, some of them didn't explain what they were doing very well. And so as a beginner especially, if there's something complicated and it's not explained well, then you're going to be spending a lot more time trying to understand that rather than it was explained in like the 5 seconds it takes to explain it. And so in my videos, I try to explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it and the reasoning behind it. And I also feel like there's a lot of videos that I want to do a certain thing and I just don't find them anywhere. So I was like, I'll just make videos on them since no one else is doing it. Also, since I've started making videos, a lot of people have written a lot of nice comments on my videos saying they really enjoy it, and that's also another reason why I continue to make videos, because it's helping people, and people are, they're developing their game from these videos, and that's just really cool to see people make their games from maybe at the start of the tutorial and see them develop as game developers. Another motivation is that maybe one day if I make a game myself, then I can start to do devlogs on my channel, and there'll already be an audience there to view my devlogs. And I actually recommend everyone who's making a game to make a YouTube channel and start devlogs, because if you're making a game and you're not marketing it, then when you release the game, no one is gonna buy it because no one knows about it. I mean, maybe some people buy it, but for the most part, it'll be relatively unknown unless people know about it. And this not only goes for YouTube, but advertise with GIFs or GIFs, however you want to say it, on Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, any social media site. Make sure you're marketing your game as you make it. Although I still have yet to really make my game enough to make devlogs, so that's on hold currently. The next question isn't a question, but it says, just happy to see my face. Happy to be here. The next question is anonymous, and the question is favorite food to make. And I unfortunately have to say that I don't cook. I'm not a good cooker, maybe because I don't have experience in it, but I can make some pasta. And oh, yes, speaking of pasta, I do like to make gnocchi. And by make gnocchi, I mean boil it in water for like 3 minutes and that's it. But gnocchi is so good. If you haven't had gnocchi, I love gnocchi. And it's so quick to make too. Also, my dog is in the background, just taking a nap over there, being cute as always. The next question is by Dan, and they ask, how do you come up with game ideas? So the first thing I do is look at existing games and seeing mechanics that I personally like, or maybe games that I've played, And if I really like that mechanic and I'd want to expand upon it or maybe use it in a different way, that's a good starting point. So I go by mechanics because I'm a very mechanics-centered person. I like games with mechanics. Some people like games with stories, so if it's stories, maybe look at a game that inspired you. Life is Strange had such a... Oh, I keep moving this mic. Life is Strange had such a good story, and I was like, whoa. You know, that thing made me cry. But depending on your motivation, you can look at other games that did something similar, and you can start to base your ideas off of a certain mechanic, or maybe off of a certain storyline, and just develop it further. I also look at game jams. I look at their themes. So maybe a theme is like nightmare. Once you have that theme, you start to think of games that revolve around that theme. And you can also look at submissions that people have submitted if they have already. And maybe that will give you some sort of inspiration, or maybe you can just join the game jam and make something small, come up with a prototype. And then if you make that prototype and people enjoy it and you enjoy it, then you're like, oh, this might work. So you can continue to develop that prototype further and adding more features and make it into a full featured game, which I've seen a lot of people actually make their games from game jams, like their full games. So there's it. What game do you consider best and why? I like several games. I don't know how to answer the favorite question games, but I like Super Mario 64 because it was just revolutionary for its time and it was just really fun overall. Another one I really liked is Uncharted 2 because of the story. I also like the multiplayer a lot, but the story is what really made me pick up the game, and I think I played the storyline about 3 times, and every time I was like, wow, this is amazing. I still need to continue Uncharted 4 though. But Naughty Dog are masters of storytellers. They have the perfect combination of like action, suspense, but also like calm down, you're okay for a while, just explore and do some puzzles. The Batman Arkham series is also magnificent, and it's open world, which I really like. The next question is by Walter. Why do game dev specifically? What makes it fun or interesting to you? So game dev, I think, is in the unique position that you can actually see what you're making immediately. So there's a visual response to what you're making. It's not like, so you can make something and there's a visual response like a website or something, but I feel like it's not the same thing because with a game, it's like a story that you can manipulate and there's unlimited possibilities on what you can do. And a website, usually there's not an unlimited number of possibilities. It's like you click this button, you go there, etc. But with a game, it's like you're telling a story and then the player can manipulate the story however they want. It's like a movie, but better. And I also like challenging things, and game development is very challenging. All right, and then the next question is by samyam. I hope I said that right. And they said, what country are you from? I want to see your face. So the second thing is right here. And then I'm from the US. So the next question is, what is your name? By Adam Devlop. And so it's Samantha, but I go by Sam. All right, and the next question is by Zan, and they ask, what inspires you to make games? What would be your dream game? And as I said before, it's the fact that people can play it and they can manipulate the story however they want. My dream game is like one that many people have. It's an MMO, right? I just want a large game where people can interact with and explore and interact with others, and it's like real life, but better. I don't have a specific idea in mind. I just want it to be like very explore focused, that you can explore the world and you can manipulate the world, or not manipulate, but you can change the world depending with your actions. The next question is by Jay, and they ask, can you make some shader graph tutorials in the future? By the way, I like your channel and congrats on 3K. Thank you, I appreciate it. And then for the shader graph question, that is on my list. I don't know when I'll do it because I have stuff I want to cover before then. Like right now I'm focusing on touch tutorials, but it is on my list. The next question is by the Fire Mage, and they ask, there's 3 questions. One of them is, what language do you use at work? / what do you do as a software engineer? So I use C++ and Python, and I work in Unreal. The second question is, how long have you done game development? Which is 3 to 4 years. And the last question is game dev a hobby? Yes. And are you trying for a job as a game developer? So I just do it as a side thing from my day job, and I'm currently not interested in doing a game developer job, like in an actual game studio, because I like my job, and I don't find the game developer life as appealing in a studio, just because, for example, the pay is less, you work much more, and the work-life balance, I've heard, is a little less than normal software engineering jobs. But it's all about the passion, right? If you're passionate about it, you go for it. But personally, I prefer to work on my own stuff when I have the time and make games that I want to make. The next question is, what is your favorite game to play right now? And currently I'm playing Rise of the Tomb Raider, I believe. The second one in the Tomb Raider series, which I think is great. The storyline is great. I also started playing Cyberpunk, but I need to play that more. And that one's fun as well. There were a lot of bugs though, so I kind of got frustrated and like left it for a while because it kept crashing when I tried to play a certain part. The next question is by Armandus, and they ask, what is the most difficult part or thing in Unity for you to do? It depends on the situation, really. Anything that's like super math heavy, I have to stare at it for a while. So yeah, I'm not great at like artsy stuff yet. I would like to learn more about art stuff within Unity, like animations. Also want to learn modeling, which that's not really Unity related, but you import it into Unity, so I guess it's kind of related. How have you made your decision to start uploading videos? As I mentioned before, it's a great way to learn, and no one was making the videos that I was looking for, so I was like, I'll make them. And it was also the start of quarantine, which it was kind of boring, so I decided to do something. And the next question from them is, did anyone inspire me? And they said, thank you for helping me out. So no problem. I'm glad I was of assistance. And in terms of inspiring, I guess just the YouTubers in general for game dev. Brackeys was a good source of inspiration. But I've been doing YouTube for some time now before this, just making games, and I've always liked YouTube. So that was probably a big reason why I started to do YouTube again, is because I did it previously, and although I wasn't really successful the last time, I thought I'd have a go with it now, but with actually providing something to the community. Alright, the next question is, have you ever created or thought to create some kind of software? I just want to make games right now. I've thought of it, but I'd honestly be more happy creating games rather than software. Unless it's software for games. And they also asked, do you make games yourself or does someone help you? I make them myself. Like small games, you know. I do want to make like a full featured game. And then how many games have you created and published? And I've published some on itch.io. I've also published a couple on Google Play, but very small games, and most on Google Play are out because I didn't update them anyways. But one of them was like an infinite runner for VR. And how many games have you created and published? So on Google Play I put like 3, but I think there's only like 1 remaining now, or like 2. And they're just small games, and honestly all of them had like procedural generation to them because I really like procedurally generated games since I'm not very good at art. So I was like, I didn't want to make a story, I just wanted something quick, so I just made like infinite stuff. I do want to publish something on Steam in the near future though. Alright, the next question is by Antonio, and they ask, what are your thoughts about self-taught game devs? Do you think it's doable? And yes, definitely. I actually think most game devs are self-taught. Most didn't go to school specifically for game dev, some went to school for programming, but I've seen a lot of game devs that honestly just learn by themselves and have no prior coding experience. For example, the person who made Undertale, they actually developed it for 4 years and they had no prior game experience. And I think they made it in Game Maker. The game they made with no prior experience, and look how successful it was. The next question is by devgod.me, or Dev, who's a mod on my Discord, so thanks for the help as well, Dev. And they ask, there's a couple questions here, so what is the best thing in game development to me? And I really like working on mechanics, making stuff work, which I probably know isn't the best answer, but I like to make stuff work that are fun to use, that have cool mechanics. And my favorite genre in 2D and 3D, I really like platformer games, and I like shooters as well, and action games. I'm not really an RPG or a tactical person. the strategy games. Favorite programming language, I'd say, is either between Python or C#. Python is easy to prototype stuff and easy to get stuff done. And C# is great because Unity uses it, and it's not C++, so it's already higher on the list than C++. And I like that it's a clean language. You know, you can read it and you will understand it. Not like C++, where it's like, what is going on here? And the next question is favorite 2D game. I'd have to say Downwell. I really like the style. I like that it has a limited color palette. So this is Devolver Digital's, which is the publisher, and you'll see that they have a very limited color palette. I really like the bit style here. It's procedurally generated, and so they have several levels. This is like the first level, and you kill enemies by stomping on them or shooting on them. And what's really interesting is that the shooting mechanic not only is useful for clearing away enemies, but it clears away obstacles, and it also limits your fall speed so that you can easily maneuver in the air. And I think that's really smart for such like a simple idea. Like, it's very well executed, and it's just very fun and challenging. And you also unlock stuff as you progress through the game. And then the last question from Dev is country you want to visit, and Japan. I really want to visit Japan. Alright, the next question is by Sri, and they ask, hey, you're making awesome videos, thank you. How did you manage to get to try this YouTube, and how are you doing this as like a single person? And do I have anyone helping me with editing and content? So no, I do not have anyone helping me, and this is why it takes me so long to do stuff. I wish there was someone that edited for me, because I absolutely hate editing. I hate it. I wish I could like it, but really editing for me is cutting out my mistakes, because I make a lot of mistakes when I record. Although it may not seem that way, I do, and I just cut it out for the video. And I tried YouTube because I did it for a lot of years before this, but I had a gaming channel, and so this time around I wanted to try something different, and I also wanted to make my own games, so I thought this would be the perfect chance to learn myself and help others learn. The next question is by Ironclad VR. Thanks for the support on Patreon. Their question is, when you were fresh into learning Unity, how did you learn to build a game? API or tutorials, or both? So I did a tutorial on Infinite Runner, and I followed it kind of mostly, and to get what I needed from it. And that helped me learn about the editor and start the basics of the Infinite Runner. I mostly watched videos on whatever I needed at the moment. So if I was stuck on something, I was like, how to do this? And I just watched the video on that. Or maybe if there's something I didn't understand about Unity, like one of the classes, I would go to the documentation, which I highly recommend Unity's documentation. It's very clear, and they have a lot of good content there. And so I would just read that documentation as well. So kind of a mix of both. So the next question is by Kerbalette. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. How long have I been doing Unity dev? So 3 to 4 years. Now I've been trying to use Godot though, just to learn it and maybe make a small game with it. See if I like that engine. The next question is, do you lift? And the answer is no. Not yet. I mean, I don't know if you can see, but like, I obviously do not lift. Maybe for a future thing though. Next question is by Toffee, and thanks for this previous support on Patreon, Toffee. Are you working on a game? And if yes, show your progress. What games have you made? And do you have experience with Unreal? Yes, I have some experience with Unreal. Not extensively though, on specific things. For the game that I've made, this was one of the first games that I've made. This is actually the first game that I made during the summer. It took me a couple months, I believe. So it's an Infinite Runner, and it's a dungeon. You're running through a dungeon and you move your head with the Google Cardboard, and depending on how you move your head, it moves the person. And also, if you look up and press the Google Cardboard button, it would jump. And if you look down and press the Google Cardboard button, it would slide through obstacles. So this was my first game. I guess I'll just show you while I'm at it, but I'm working on this small FPS thing in Godot, and I'm basing this off of Mrs.'s Udemy tutorial, but this is very simple. I don't really have anything. I have the raycast working, so you can see at the bottom it hits the floor, prints out something. And this is very simple. It was originally for Game Jam, but of course I ran out of time to submit it. Alright, the next question is DC or Marvel? And DC only because Batman, and I really like Batman. And I think I like Batman because of the game series that I played, and it was just so well made. So well made. Such a good series. So the next question is, why does toothpaste make orange juice taste bad? And in my previous recording of my video, I actually searched it up. So let's explore the answer. So the answer is, it's because it's sweet. And the strange bitter taste has this thing, and it suppresses the receptors in your taste bud. So here's your answer. The next question is Eunice. And I actually translated that into Latin, and it's, I think that means single. And I'm not gonna answer that, but if it was something else, I still wouldn't know what that question means. The next question is, why do I use Unity? And so currently I'm actually trying to use Godot. But besides the point, Unity has a great community, which I think is very important. A lot of tutorials. So literally anything you need, there's a tutorial for it. Or almost anything you need. So there's people racing outside. And my dog is just like licking the air. Hey Miley! The community. The features. They have so many features. Tile maps. Animation. So many things are just built in, out of the box, like Cinemachine, for example. The input system. It's a great engine. I'm just trying Godot because I want something quicker to prototype, and honestly, you can prototype in Unity as well quickly, but personally, I was finding myself spending a lot of time in Unity, like writing a lot of code to do something simple, and maybe that's because I was trying for the code to be well documented and well written, and for prototyping that's just not the way to go. So maybe it's because of my experience with it, but I've just been trying Godot to see if I like that to make something quick. And I like that Godot is open source, which Unity is unfortunately not open source. But it's a professional engine and it's free for $100,000 or less per year if you make less than that. So it's already pretty good. What's the most fun about being a YouTuber? And it is the fact that I get a lot of nice comments from people that saying that I helped them a lot in the project, which is really nice to know. They also ask, what is something that you'd like to do with your channel in the future? And devlogs is definitely one of them as I start to work more on my games and continue to develop it further. I've also wanted to try out Twitch, streaming game dev stuff, and also just videos about talking about game dev experiences. This is a great place to get some like racing audio for your game. And also like videos where I just talk about game dev experiences and try to like, why'd I do this? Why'd I do that? Stuff like that. Next question is, what makes game dev in particular fun for you? And it's the creative ability to see what you do and have other people enjoy it. What's the most useless talent you have? So I somehow tend to like every day or almost every day knock into a piece of furniture very hard and it hurts. And so I guess that's pretty useless and actually not great talent to have. I don't even know if that's a talent, but I guess it's a talent by the fact that I'm just so clumsy. The next question is favorite game of the year, and I'd have to say Luigi's Mansion 3. I haven't finished it. I know I'm saying favorite game of the year without finishing it, but that was such a well-made game. Like, I was just playing it, and the graphics were insane for the Switch. The lighting was perfect. I don't know what they did with the lighting, but they just nailed it. And it's just very fun to play. The next question is, do you have a day job? And yes. Next question is, are you going to do vids for other programs like Unreal or Blender? And I hope to, yes. My next goal, apart from Unity, is Godot, and I'm learning that. But of course, I'm still going to be making Unity videos. The next question is Twitch, and hopefully in the future. Yes. Ever thought about making a VTuber avatar? And no, I had not thought about that prior to this question, but I will take a look into it. It looks pretty fun, and it's free on Steam, which is awesome. Next question is, ever thought of running jam teams with patrons? And I haven't thought about joining jams with patrons. I've joined one with my mod, which is a patron, so kind of. Also, I don't do too many jams because I don't have time. And like stuff pops up every time during a jam, stuff pops up and it's like, I can't finish the jam anymore. But the last goal on Patreon, the prize will be a jam that I host. And it's not going to be any jam. It's going to be a very cool jam. But that's like not in the near term future because it's like the last goal. The next question is, have I ever thought about making a higher tier that allowed someone to request a video on a specific topic or something along those lines? Making it a limited quantity to prevent it from getting too overwhelming. So I haven't thought about that. So if I did that, however, and it was every month, because you pay every month, I upload once a week. So that'd be 4 videos a week. If I made it like that, then I'd have to almost dedicate all my videos to what they ask for. And I don't think that is good because then I wouldn't be able to do what I wanted to do a tutorial on. But my next goal on Patreon is that I'll give a tutorial on something the patrons vote for, and the next goal after that is I'll give a series on something that the patrons vote for, like a tutorial series. My next question is, what is your advice for women in game dev and development in teams? I know imposter syndrome is a real thing and it's very prevalent, and I know since it's a very male-dominated field that women can especially feel that they might be less than their male counterparts, and I'm telling you right now that it's not correct and that you're doing great, and just keep at your own pace and don't let anyone's mean words, if they say it to you, bring you down. Another advice is that if you're in a job, you can try joining an ERG, Employee Resource Group. Usually they have one for women or for other minorities, and you can meet other people with your similar interests or in your field, and you can communicate with them and make friends with them, and you can lift each other up. But yeah, just make sure you're joining a team that you feel comfortable in, a company that you feel comfortable in, or if you're not in a company, make sure that your team is one that you can feel comfortable in and that you feel good about expressing your opinions in. This question is by Walter, and he asks, what color was the dress according to you? Alright, so I see it as blue. I imagine this is the one, right? It is blue and black for me. I see that though, if you increase the exposure or something, that you can see it yellow, like some people saw it yellow. This thing went so viral though. Alright, and then the next question is, can you imagine smells? So like the mind's eye, but for your nose. Kind of, like if I imagine a very bad smell, I'm like, ooh, I wouldn't want to smell that. But I think there's people who can actually do that, like for real. Like can actually smell it when they imagine it. I'm not sure though. I know people can see colors though in their mind, or they can see their thoughts, which is so cool. And the last question is by Chat Chain. I hope I said that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. I would like to see a video of you explaining how I learned Unity and got to that level. Thanks a lot for your videos. You're welcome. Thank you. I'll put that on my list. That's not a bad idea. So yeah, thank you so much. And thank you especially to my patrons for making all of this possible. Y'all are awesome. And if you're interested in joining Patreon, the link is in the description. I offer source code, early access for videos, and an exclusive Discord chat, depending on the tier that you're in. So I'd like to thank my new patrons. On the enthusiastic tier, we have DragonBite79, and we also have Michael. Thank you so much for the support. And in the dedicated tier, we have M-Ace, Mace, if I pronounce it without the dash in the middle. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. These videos would not be possible without all of your support. It really helps me keep me motivated to continue making these videos, which take a lot of time. And if you haven't already, be sure to join our Discord channel where you can chat, post memes, or just post your questions that you may have. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you next time. And there's my dog. He's just waking up like, oh, back to sleep. All right, see ya. Thanks.